Conservative spending plans would destroy public services if they were to win a majority at the next general election, Vince Cable has told the BBC. The Lib Dem Business Secretary said the Tories had been kept on quite a tight leash in coalition, but were now getting into all kinds of extremes. He suggested the armed forces would be almost ceremonial after Tory cuts. Chancellor George Osborne claims the Lib Dems plan hefty income tax rises and would cause economic chaos alone. The two coalition parties have been stressing their different approaches to reducing the deficit and managing the economy after next year's general election. Really worry. They, and Labour, face criticism of not being clear with voters about how they would reduce borrowing by closing the gap between tax revenues and spending in the next parliament. In an interview with BBC One's Andrew Marr show, Mr. Cable said he would really worry if Conservative Chancellor George Osborne's future spending plans were realised. He said information in the autumn statement suggested that Home Office spending, including on police officers, could be roughly halved. On defense or armed forces would become largely ceremonial, and local government spending, on issues like social care, could be almost halved. I think that politicians should solve the debt problems by delivering services more efficiently, not take the easy way out and dump the problem on families with hefty income tax rises. George Osborne, Chancellor. It would be devastating, it would be ideologically driven, and I would be very strongly opposed to it, he said. He said his party could work together on a day-to-day basis with the Conservatives, and there was some common ground on restructuring the economy, as there was with Labour, to avoid short-term credit bubbles. But he told BBC One's Andrew Marr show that the speed and scale of future spending cuts outlined in the autumn statement were not signed off by Lib Dem Deputy PM Nick Clegg and Chief Secretary to the Treasury Danny Alexander. There are big differences in the way in which we approach this deficit reduction. Well behaved, he told the BBC. The Conservatives would destroy public services in the way that we know them. He accused them of ideological extreme plans to cut departmental spending. The Lib Dems have a different approach and had a plan to keep to financial discipline with a different mixture of tax and spending reduction. We've actually worked well in turning the country around. While we've been in coalition, we have kept the Tories on quite a tight leash, and they have been well behaved in a coalition, but now they have been let off the leash and confronting the possibility of majority government, we are getting into all kinds of extremes. There was this extraordinary poll this morning that showed that the public perceived the Tories as being to the right of UKIP. This is what happens when they are removed from the kind of constraints we put on them in coalition, said Mr. Cable. In an interview last week, Mr. Osborne said that, under Lib Dem plans, income tax or national insurance would have to rise to cut the deficit, and electing either a Labour or Lib Dem government would mean a return to economic chaos. He added, I think that politicians should solve the debt problems by delivering services more efficiently, not take the easy way out and dump the problem on families with hefty income tax rises. Forecasters predict public spending will fall to levels not seen since the 1930s, suggesting the loss of 1 million public sector jobs by 2020. But Mr. Osborne has dismissed BBC coverage of future spending reductions as totally hyperbolic and said arguments made against cuts in 2010 had been wrong.